Here we are. Hey.
Hey everybody, I'm Jenny.
I'm Paul.
And we are Palette Knives Out Artcast. Thanks for joining in. I think probably Marlene is on here and someone else. And oh, we got some more people.
Come on, Marlene.
So tonight I'm going to be guiding you guys through a fun little owl painting. Oh, do I get an extra paper towel?
You didn't give me one, so I didn't.
I did. It's under your canvas, I think.
Well, no wonder. You hid it. It's not Easter. It's not an Easter egg.
So I'm going to guide everybody step by step through an acrylic painting on 11 by 14 canvas. And let's zoom in and show everybody what we're painting today.
Whoop.
It's this cute little barn owl in
owl.
a field with fireflies. And I actually designed this years ago, probably 2015. And hadn't taught it in a really long time. So I redid the painting, made just a few little changes to adapt it to a little bit smaller canvas. And my way of painting owls' faces has changed for the better now, so I'm going to teach it the way that I put it together. We get to do some fun white splatter with the stars. So I'll just pop this up here. You can see all the tiny itty bitty stars back there, and then every once in a while you get one that's like crazy, like shooting stars. Those are fun. People always would panic about those in class, but they're really fun, and I love that. So let's go ahead and have a look at our colors. I'll bring the original back and forth so we can look at it as we go. Black and white. We have yellow, burnt sienna, and I use cobalt blue, but you can use any variation of these colors. Instead of burnt sienna, you could use burnt umber or raw umber. You just need a brown. Burnt sienna is really good because that is the color that barn owls have in them. It's very similar to this, but you can always change it up. I did an owl at home that is all like jewel tones, and it looks really cool. So brushes, we just have a handful of different sizes. You just want a nice big brush to get the background on quick, and then just a handful of smaller ones. You can use round or flat brushes. Let's go ahead and actually let's do a toast.
Toast.
Cheers. With our giant cans of
Baja Blast.
Baja Blast Hard Mountain Dew. We are classy tonight. Let's take our biggest brush, dip it in the water cup, dry it on your paper towel. And we're just going to start by giving a really big quick coat of black.
The whole thing?
The whole thing, yes. And you know what? We're going to actually start. Let's do it this way. I remember when I did this painting last weekend. I just did about 3/4 of the canvas because we come up from the bottom with some blue and it blends together while everything's wet and it looks really nice. So I do want to try to get most of the upper canvas covered.
Can I call you Mick Jagger?
Why?
Because you want to paint it black?
Oh, yeah. Maybe I was really emo that day. I think I was. That was the day I did the painting with all the eyeballs on it.
I don't remember that one.
I showed it to you the other day.
Yeah, but I can't see.
Well, you said you liked it.
I just liked it. Like, I didn't actually I liked it from a, what's the word I'm looking for? Composition standpoint and color standpoint. I didn't actually look at, because I just thought, oh, it's a nice abstract painting. I didn't really pay attention to that.
So I should say one of our very, very long-time fans, Jen Welton, is actually who suggested that we do this, which was funny because it's one that I had thought about redoing to teach live. So we do some live sip and paint classes. And when I saw that, we need to check the online forums more often because I think she sent it in like March. I saw that and I was like, okay, that's the sign. I need to do that painting because since I was thinking about it.
Did it open up your mind?
Jen was reading my mind.
You saw the sign and it opened up your mind.
Yes.
I am on a roll tonight. I must be butter, baby, because I'm on a roll.
So I am going to kind of move along quickly. I apologize if you're following along and it feels uncomfortable. Remember, you can always pause the video.
Why are you in such a hurry tonight, Jenny?
Just because I need the canvas to be a little bit wet. And there's no need for any kind of perfection here. As far as like your line down here, it can be really crazy and all over the place. I'm going to do just a quick rinse of the brush. And let's get some blue on there. So I'm using cobalt. If you are using phthalo blue, which is that dark, more indigo blue, you might mix a little bit of white with it because this is a brighter blue back here. So the phthalo blue and the black might not show up as good together. They're going to be real close in their value. So what I want you to think about here is this is like grass. Even though it's really not, it's just some brightness behind the owl that looks really nice in the end. And I want it to mix with the black paint, which is why I said I was going to work a little quickly, because I do need the mixing of the black down here. If your canvas is dry, like let's say you have to step away and take a phone call or something, just mix a little bit of black into your blue, or just come in and do a quick, fresh second coat of black. But yeah, I'm just sort of letting my brush go up and run out of paint. I got a little fleck of, I think, water or something. That's what it looks like. Probably hiding out on the metal ferrule of the brush. And that caused, it's so crazy how it does with acrylic paint. It just erased the black I put on there in one spot. And when that happens, I'm just going to let it dry and come back over with a little black later. Because if I try to cover it now, everything's a little bit too wet. And the paint will not adhere well enough. Yeah, I love that. It actually should kind of look like blue flames.
I'm cheating again.
What's that? What are you doing? You're doing green? Hey, watch it. You're splattering me with water. Yeah, this is a really, I don't know, I find it really satisfying, this kind of thing. As long as I'm not getting paint on my new kimono.
Why would you do that? Why would you wear it to painting?
Because it was super cozy. I wore it all day.
You know, today never got warm.
Yeah, it was around 65 all day today, I think.
It was supposed to be
Oregon.
It was supposed to be warmer than that.
So here I've got an area where the black here had dried, and when I brought the blue in, you can see that white canvas behind it. That's what makes, like, everything else is really blended. This makes a big white area under the cobalt blue, but out of the way. What I want to avoid is I like this area, so I don't want to bring black over that too much. I'm just going to dip my brush in black. I didn't even wipe the blue off, and just kind of flick upward across the bottom just to get a little black in there so it doesn't stand out too much. But I really like how that effect worked up here.
Oh, did you now?
I did. Hi, Marlene. Paul has cataracts and can't see.
I can't see.
So I need to remember to check the chats because he will not be able to read them. I don't even know how he manages to paint. I think it's just muscle memory. Is that what it is?
It's just I trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
I actually see okay up close.
Yeah.
It's just anything past about 18 inches from my nose is...
Danger.
Just trying to get the consultation done so I can get my surgery and never have to wear glasses again.
Yeah, that will be good. My microphone was coming off. I am actually going to put this kimono off. I really like it. I got it on Etsy, and I don't want to get paint on it. Okay, so that was dry enough to accept a little more paint on top. If you feel like you need any more black paint here and there up top, just go in with a little bit of paint. We don't want to disturb this too much unless you don't like that area and you really want to disturb it. Oops, I painted the charger cord. All right. So yeah, just get that finished up. And we'll start putting some stars on top of this. And got a lot of glare. It's partly because it's a black canvas. And the wet black paint and light do weird things. I know because, oh, there, look at that. That is so cool. Kind of looks like Aurora Borealis. I think I could turn it upside down. And hey, we're doing a whole different painting tonight. I know I said we're doing the owl, but we're switching to Aurora Borealis. Anyway, yeah, black paintings are very hard to photograph because of the glare, and then having it be wet right now is also adding to that. So I'm going to show you guys how to do flicks of stars. Some people really love this and have fun with it. Some people panic a little bit, like I said earlier, and a lot of that panicking is because you'll occasionally get really long streams, like streamers of paint. And like I said, I like that look. To me, it kind of just has a really cool cosmic quality. But if you're wanting to avoid that, just use less substance on your brush. So we're using a really watered down paint, and I'll have you use much less than you think you need. Okay, so let's take the big brush. I cleaned it off. It's really watery right now. I can't talk today. Let's go ahead and pat some of that water down next to the white and just stir a little bit of white into it. The consistency I'm aiming for is like maybe skim milk. So it's pretty wet. You can see that. Here, I'll tilt that. This is where we need the glare. See that? Yeah, it's going to roll off. And you'll know right away if you need to stir more paint into your mixture, but I don't want to go right in with this very soaking wet brush. I want to dry it off on both sides and then go for it. And you just pull back and flick. And now I dried it off too much. Okay, I need to add a little more of everything. I was too conservative with how much paint and water. There we go. It's like, where is it? I know it's there. You can do this with a toothbrush too if you have an old toothbrush. But toothbrushes are kind of expensive now. They're almost as expensive as some of the paintbrushes out there. I'm going to tilt this. See that?
Not if you go to the dollar store.
That's true. Trader Joe's too.
The $1.25 store.
This is something you can do with a little bit smaller brush. My ideal brush size for this is a 1/2 inch wide brush, this is a 3/4 inch wide. But I'd have to dig one out from somewhere here where we're at. So I'm going to use what I have. So let's try, if you don't like the big brush, try the number 8. Oh, that is definitely a little bit better. Yeah, look at that. So you can get it all over. It does make a mess, so I apologize for that in advance. Put some newspaper under your canvas. The other thing too is I know a lot of you guys are not painting along and maybe you're going to paint it later. What you can do is, instead of doing this, if you really don't want to deal with, I get it, some people don't like getting paint on their hands and maybe are painting in an area where you can't get paint all over. You're in a rental or whatever. What you can do instead, and we are going to do this in addition, is you can use the handle end of your little brush, poke it in some white, and just stamp little stars all over. And if you don't want to do the flicking thing, you can just put multitudes of these. Just go to town and work hard on it. But I don't get to do this fun flicking thing very often, so I am going to really enjoy myself here. When we had our studio in Portland, oh, look at that. Sky snakes, that's what it looks like. When we had our studio in Portland, we had paint all over the walls, all over the floor. We had a ton of paintings we did this way. And so when you're doing that a lot all throughout the week, over 5 years in a lease, it adds up. Paul and I had to steam mop all the floors every time we moved out of a space to move into a new one. There we go. Look at that. That's fun. Very cosmic. And now I'm going to add on the little stars that I make with the handle of the brush, just so we have some bigger, more dramatic stars mixed in there with, I don't know, there's nothing that's going to be more dramatic than that, I don't think. And if I hated that, I could put my owl right there, but my owl's just going to cover part of it. I could also turn it into a fun constellation, like maybe just do a star point at each little location. Look at that. Boop. I'm just winging it right now. Now it's a constellation. Or some kind of weird spiderweb. Cosmic spiderweb. What are you doing? Are you doing the same painting?
I'm just having fun.
I think you're doing a different painting.
I can't see what I'm doing, so it doesn't matter.
So go ahead and dot on as many stars as you want. Just know you can always come back and add some more. I'm wondering, Paul, because this is very glary, the whole half of this canvas is glare. And I'm wondering if it's that light. I know you hate it when I start talking about the lights.
If I had $1 for, like, if you were a professional complainer.
I want my people to be able to see. Okay, so I might take a little more blue. Yeah, that's better. Actually, yeah. I think if it's not better, let us know.
You're the biggest critic, so you're the one who can tell.
I am. I like my lighting to be perfect.
It's going to glare. The only way you can get no glare is if you just hit it hard from the sides only.
Yeah, and part of that is because we're painting such a dark canvas. All right. But once we start our owl, it should show up pretty good because we're going to actually paint it on in white to start. I'm just touching up some of the blue while I'm chilling out here. There we go. A lot of that blue, unfortunately, gets covered up. You don't have to cover it up completely, though, if you don't want. What it gets covered up with is grass. And then our owl's going to take up a good chunk. Mine's, here, I'll show you. It'll be kind of off center there. I love the just kind of serene expression and the serene feel that this painting has. Owls are my favorite animal, and stars are my favorite thing. Stars are my favorite sky thing. So, and fireflies also had a nice dreamy feel to it. So overall, I thought calling it Field of Dreams was fun because, first of all, Paul and I used to love that movie. It came out when we were teenagers, right?
Yeah,
the Kevin Costner baseball movie.
Yeah, I was a big baseball
guy. Oh, hi, Corey.
I was a big
glad
baseball
you can
guy.
Stay the whole time. Corey says, hi, Paul and Jenny. I can stay the whole time.
Yay. No Star Wars trivia tonight. Sorry.
Was Corey part of this Star Wars trivia? I think you're thinking of Kevin.
I'm thinking of Kevin.
You're thinking of Kevin.
But yeah. Corey joined on like the same day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Sorry, my bad.
So I'm just cleaning off a little paint off my fingers while I am waiting for that to dry a little bit. And I'm going to talk to you about shaping out a basic owl shape. I have taught this sort of barn owl multiple times. When I first started VineGo, which was our art studio with the live classes, I think the first year of business I did 2 barn owl paintings, and I always just told the people it's shaped like a fat bowling pin or a one of the Russian stacking dolls. That's a very similar shape to what we're trying to achieve here. It's basically a very rounded head. We actually start with that. It's like you're doing an upside down bowl shape. And then from there, we round out here and back down. And then I think about, okay, this is the chest, stomach area, all this white. This side is the wing, so it's actually going to bump out a little bit more than this one. But they are pretty close to even. It's just, it's got a slight tilt to it. And that's just kind of the owl's pose. Yours might not end up exactly posed like mine. Mine that I do right now probably, most likely, will not be exactly the same as this. I'll aim for it to be as close as possible, but since I'm not like using a projector or blueprinting anything on, it's going to be freestyle. And let's gear up to do that. If you're sipping on liquid courage, Take a sip. I know I am. We discovered this the hard Mountain Dew Baja Blast, and then there's another flavor. I think there's like a fruit punch.
Code Red.
And we like them because they taste pretty good, and they're 0 sugar. So many drinks are very sugary.
They're kind of sweet.
They're kind of sweet, but they're not like they don't have that artificial sugar taste. I actually don't know what they're sweetened with. And we figured twice a month for live streams we can do. We don't ever buy them outside of the live streams. We always wonder what the little guy who owns it's like a little 7-Eleven type market, and it's right on the way here. So we stop in 2 Fridays a month, and we each get a giant can. I'll show you. It's really big. Giant can. And I always wonder what that guy thinks. He's like, here they are again, like every 2 weeks on a Friday. They come in. They each get a big can of Mountain Dew. Maybe he doesn't think about it that much.
He probably doesn't think about it that much.
All right, so
That's just your own insecurity.
I'm not insecure about it. I'm gonna rock this stuff. Okay, so let's take. I'm gonna use my number 8 brush. I know a lot of you guys have the same brush pack we do, or you have your own. But this is about a 1/4 inch wide and flat. If you want to use a round brush or a different size brush, please feel free to do that. We have, if you have this, what's the brand of this brush? Oh, Princeton kit. The next size down is a number 4, and it's quite a bit smaller, so you might feel more comfortable sketching with that one. Just go with whatever you're used to. And take a deep breath. Let's dip it in white. Let me zoom in a little bit. I still want to be able to show the whole canvas, but I want to have it a little more zoomed in. So the top of the owl's head is, I'm going to come in from the upper left corner up here. Probably about, if you were to divide this into thirds, like it's probably right about there. Maybe a little bit here. Then drop down about 4 inches. Make a dot. That's where we'll start the top of the head. I would actually, you might raise it up a little bit. Let's go up just a little bit, because it's better to have too much room down here than to run out of room and have to squish everything in. So let's just turn that into a rainbow. And if I were to give you a ruler, or if I were to take a ruler and measure this, that's probably close to 4 inches wide between here and here. Upside down bowl shape, rainbow, frown, whatever helps you visualize the shape. And I find it's a little easier to draw the back of the owl first. So I'm going to come down, round out for the wing, and then back down. And a lot of times I'll just sort of reshape things as I go along. And then for the chest, this goes a little, see how this one's sort of curved right here? This is going to go a little straighter past that. And then it just gently bumps out a little and comes back down. And then we don't have to draw any feet. Yes. The talons on owls I've painted a lot of them, and they're interesting. I feel like I've got it down now, but trying to teach them, oof, a little harder. Now, we're going to switch down a brush size. So whatever you're using, go down 1 size. Take a minute to look at your shape. It's like a little ghost. So cute. Okay, so I'm going to go down now to my number 4. You can dip it in water if you want. Dry it off. Now their face shape is a heart, but it's rounded at the bottom, so it's actually shaped a lot like an apple. And what I'm going to do first is, this is going to seem kind of weird. I dipped my arm in blue. I'm going to actually do this curved line to set. This is just going to kind of set the direction that the owl is looking to. So we're not looking straight on. It's kind of like almost a 3/4 view. So yeah, I did this line through the middle that ends up where his beak goes and everything. And then from that, I'm going to round out like you're starting to draw a heart. There's going to be more space here than there is over here. This comes real close to the side of the face. Take your time. So more space over here than here. And around down till you come down to a little rounded chin. Now the face on yours could be, if it's really squished, you can make it a little bit longer by just redrawing it because everything gets painted over. So like I could come down and add a extra chin here and not worry about it at all. Barn owls, I've noticed, I've looked at a lot of pictures of them throughout the years because I paint them a lot. And I have noticed that they do look different from each other, just like humans do. Like some of them have more narrow faces. Some of them have really round, cute faces. Some have really round eyes. Some are a little bit more angular. I feel like my owl has a tiny bit of a cone head. Poor guy. So I think in order to fix that up, I'd probably just round it out here a little more. So it's kind of pointy right there. And then to set where the eyes go, they're in the upper half of the face. I'm going to do this gently curved line like this. So then I know the eye line is right because then he's just kind of looking out and slightly down. All of this gets covered up. I promise. And clean your brush. I want to go down to my little round brush now. Anytime I'm drawing eyes, I find that's the best way to do it. So little brush, you can dip it in water if you want, but you don't have to. Pick up a little white, and I've got a star right where my eye's going to go. So I'm just going to make that sort of upside down bowl shape that we did in the beginning. And do one over here too. You're going to have more of a gap here than you are here because the face is sort of looking that way. That's probably the one thing that'll complicate the facial drawing at first. They have a very simple face to draw, but because I decided to set it at an angle rather than looking straight on,
Thank you.
we have to think about these things. Like if there's a lot further distance here than here. And then the bottom part of the eye, you just round back up. So they're kind of round, kind of like I think I've referred to this as like a fat lemon shape a lot of times. Let me zoom in. Get that face up in here.
You know, today's Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. So,
and I feel like I'm painting a hockey mask right now.
So are we turning our owls into Jason Voorhees?
I don't know.
You know, this is the only Friday the 13th of the whole year, too. That is one thing I heard. So now what I want to do is I want to trace this curve. I'm going to bring it a little closer to this inner corner of this eye because their nasal area does bump out. And right down here, I'm going to draw a little thin triangle beak. So it looks very cartoony right now. All of that's going to get changed up, but we do have the facial features on there, and that's where we need to start. So go ahead and adjust anything that needs to be adjusted. Let's have a look at the two of mine. You can see the new one. Yeah, slightly different face. And we'll definitely see once I get everything colored in. We'll see how different it looks. Definitely have a little more of a pointy top of the head there. And let me zoom out. There we go. I'll zoom out so you can see a little bit of my color palette too. Okay, take either your number 8 or your number 4, and we're going to draw the wing. It's very simple compared to everything else we just did. Basically, he's sort of shrugging, kind of almost wrapping he's looking over his shoulder. That's what we're trying to get here. So we're going to round that out and then back down. Now this could become any type of owl painting that you want it to. Like I've done this before where I start off with the basic shape and then I randomly decided, you know what? I don't want it to be natural color. So I'll like color turquoise wing. Or usually what I'll do is like one full color for here that's vivid and bright. And then I'll do like individual little feather shapes and do those in different colors. I'm going to check out my pictures. I take pictures along the way when I work up these paintings. So thank God. Even though I just did this one recently, sometimes I need to reference it. It's funny though, because here's what'll happen. It'll go from this, and I'll just paint, and then suddenly it's like, oh, it's done. So a lot of times I'll forget to take those in-between pictures. But what I really wanted to look at and show you guys is how we color in the face full, and it looks really strange because we know they have a white face. This is underpainting, and it's going to provide us some nice shadows that will poke through those white feathers, and it will prevent the face from being just pure white cotton ball. So what we want to do is we're going to use our number 8 or your number 4 brush. Either way, just use a small, flat, or round brush. Doesn't really matter which type you use, just something small. And I will mix white and oops, the fuzz. White and burnt sienna together. That's a little too much burnt sienna. I want it to be kind of terracotta colored, I guess. I might just throw a dash of black in there too. Yeah, so this is a good color to start with. I don't even know what I would call that. Smoky terracotta, kind of. And I've got a lot of paint on my brush from mixing. You can see the big blob. I see how it bulges out. So usually what I'll do is I can do this on my palette. Then I haven't wasted the paint. I can go back and use that unless it dries. And let's go ahead and start along here. I want you to leave a little sliver of this white nasal area because we don't want to lose that quite yet. The eyes will be covered in black, so we won't see that white line and weird stars showing through. It's just going to be a little funky for a while. Let me zoom in. Brush strokes, I like to do just quick little flicks and thinking about the direction of the way their feathers grow on their face. It's very aerodynamic. So they grow up and away from the eye, and down here, they're basically, it's kind of like it goes outward from the eye all the way around. I think that looks so cool, actually. We're not looking for any like feathery perfection here because we still need to outline the face in a dark color and get rid of that white. You can paint over most of your white on the face. Especially if you felt like your face was really small, you can make it bigger. And you know how I was showing you the direction of the feathers. That's not super important right now, but it's a good thing to get used to. Like directional brush strokes can make you're painting an animal can really make it look more realistic. If you want it realistic. She just has a little face mask on right now. She's getting her nightly routine. It's funny, I used to use face masks a lot, and I don't think I've even used one in a decade. I don't like the feel of them, and those sheet masks are even worse. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I've seen the horror story of people trying to peel them off.
No, the sheet mask is it's like a cloth material that's really lightweight.
Okay.
Cloth, and that probably, I don't know if it disintegrates. Man, I hope so. Otherwise, there's probably a crap load of them in the landfills. But yeah, you just like lay it across your face, and it has holes cut out for the eyes and mouth.
Interesting.
I think I tried one once. People keep trying to gift me things like that, and I'm like, it stays in a drawer for years. All right.
Maybe you should start gifting those.
Here's an expired sheet mask from 2016. Okay. I'm going to start filling in the top of the head now. We're going to leave the face alone. I know it's hard because you want to work it and it looks really like a creepy sheet mask. But I promise you we will go back to it multiple times. I'm going to use my number 8 brush again. It's the one I use the most through most of my paintings, as those of you who have painted with me know. And I want to mix... I'm actually going to mix some more burnt sienna into some of my peachy terracotta color, and then I'll add a dot of black, maybe a little bit more. So I really like what the black does to this color. It just makes it really rich. And we need a little bit darker color on the top of the head. Now I've seen barn owls, some of them have really dark on the tops of their heads, and others have it where it's just like a few peach feathers on top of white. But basically, I'm going to come in and retrace the top of the head, get that white out of there. It probably will need another coat, which we will have time to do later. All of our focus on this painting is going to go to the owl. The rest of the stuff is very easy, and it's something you could... The rest of the stuff is something you could even do tomorrow if you wanted to, if you're painting along. My owl has a big brain.
Thank you for calling me an owl.
So this just comes down, and I'm using the thin edge of my brush to sort of feather that into the... like hair. He has a little mullet or something. Now this is where I like to change things up a little bit. Actually, give me a second. Let's get this side too. Let's jump in the gun. Give him a mullet on both sides. It looks so funny. This is where I like to change things up a little bit. Like I might take and dip my brush in just a swipe it in a little bit of black. There's not hardly any on there. And I might come in and just brush some in and blend it right on the canvas. So it's almost kind of patchy. See that? Little patchy brush strokes. Because they do have some really interesting feather patterns all over their body. And this can help start mimicking the base of that. And then we put some like little peppery dots on the top of the owl too. Gosh, that head really blends into the background. Because
well, right now it does. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of time.
No, when I put it down like this, the glare, it like disappears.
You and the glare.
Me and the glare. We're mortal enemies.
You're hyper-fixated again.
Okay. Still looking crazy. People popping in. I'm sorry. It will look like this in the end. In theory.
End,
depends on how much
really
how much of this hard Mountain Dew I drink. Just kidding. I never finish it. I'm just end up yapping away and have to cover it and bring it home. So I mix a little more black into this.
I drove around with one of those in the cup holder of the back seat of my car for about 4 days, and I was like, "What is that back there?" Good thing I didn't get pulled over.
That was a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and outline the white. See how I'm covering the white all the way down.
Although I suspect the saran wrap over the top probably would have been a...
Yeah, I don't know if that would fly, but...
Well, I mean,
if you get a good officer,
like,
I mean, a chill one.
It's not like I had a roll of saran wrap that I just randomly grabbed and covered the...
Exactly.
You know.
So this is going to be very dark at first. And here's what I like to do. I like to swatch in using the thin edge of the brush. So that's how I get those long kind of feathery lines. And then I might come over and dip the brush. I'm not going to wash it. I'll dip it in more black. So I have quite a lot of black on the brush now. And I'll come in and do like a fluffy, feathery line that's kind of down at an angle. One thing that helped me with painting birds and bird wings and that sort of thing is to think about their feathers and wings are designed so that they blend in with the outside. And that helped me so much because I'm like, oh, well, then it needs like lots
Except
of
for
browns.
flamingos.
Except for flamingos, yeah, what the heck. So now I'll clean my brush real quick. And now I might take it and dip it right in the burnt sienna and add some bright little patches of burnt sienna. Look at that. That's so pretty. I love
Mr.
that.
Peacock would like to have a word with you too.
Yeah, the peacock is not going to blend in. You can add this bright color anywhere up in here too. It's really nice. I really love the, on top of like the more dulled down color we were using. It's cool. And then I'll take some of that and go under this black diagonal line I had put in. You can like climb up here and there. Basically, we want this just sort of interesting patterns that are easy to paint. Have you ever encountered a barn owl in the wild, Paul?
Yes.
Nice. I've got
Scare the big. You know, it really, if you're not expecting it and all of a sudden one flies by you, it can actually be kind of scary because it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of a snowy owl.
I'm gonna
Well, no,
skip
because
a spot.
barn owls can be white as well, right?
Yes. Usually, no. They're so. There's always some kind of little bit of peach on them, unless there's some special weird melanin ones that are like black. I've seen there's very rare. So I just skipped a spot here, left it blue because I'll just come back with black. And I did wash my brush, although technically you probably don't have to. Just doing some, filling in that little zigzaggy area with some black. So I have encountered a barn owl in the wild when I was a kid. My uncle had one of those old rickety barns that are like, you always see barn owls in the movies. And
I mean, there's a reason they're named barn owls.
Yeah. And it was exciting because we were all just us young cousins freaking out because it's like, it's a ghost! I'm going to add some more streaks of black up in here. I like to change it up so it's not so solid. He has lowlights in his mullet.
We did have that young horned owl that died in our backyard.
When was that? I actually got a big glob of paint.
I think I was in high school.
Oh, okay, so I didn't know you then.
We kept them in the freezer for a little while.
That's weird.
Well, we had to figure out what to do with them.
Okay.
And so we ended up donating them to Tryon Creek.
Oh, that's cool.
And I don't know.
Okay, you're forgiven for keeping it in the freezer.
Yeah, he was alive in our backyard for a few days, but we could tell there was something not right with him because he was just sitting on a branch real low to the ground.
That's
and
sad, buddy.
He was young. He was, probably, a year old or two, full grown, but you could tell.
I just keep having to see, look, do you see up there?
Well, yeah.
And then I tip it. So I'm just tipping the canvas to paint because otherwise people won't be
Well,
able to see.
then that light now glares, so you can point that up.
Up? Oh, no, that's not good. Okay.
Is it this one?
Maybe.
No, because that one right there is pointing so straight down on its
honestly,
reflecting.
I think it's because the painting's so dark.
It's because it's so
For
dark.
now. Okay, so...
Maybe someday you'll just acknowledge that it's just the way it is sometimes.
I can't. One thing I have noticed in looking at different pictures of barn owls is some of them have some of that more peachy color that we colored the face in. Also on their wings. And the patterns on their wings are, once they like unfurl them, they're really intricate. But this way, with it being down and it being like a quick, 2-hour painting, hour and a half, 2 hours, we're just doing the painterly version. So I'm just putting some little patches of some of that in there wherever you feel is good. Because that's what I was looking at. Kind of good along the back edge. I like that because it just provides a little bit of a highlight. So it's so dark with the color of the bird wing and against the background. See that? It kind of creates a little highlight. We get to put some yellow over that later to make it pop out. But it really looks like calico right now. On my very original I did in, like I said, like 2016, quite a long time, 2014, I don't know, can't even remember, a long time ago. I didn't detail the wing as much. as we're going to today. It's simple detailing that we do today. So that was one of the changes I made that I felt was a really good change. I know you guys are hating the face right now. But we're going to actually use the number 8 brush and some white. And go ahead and dip your brush in. I'm using the thin edge of the brush, going away from the face. And here's what I like to do. I like to, I'm not pressing very hard. I'm not wanting a really dense coat of white. I have a bunch of water on my brush. Because having a little bit of the black background show through gives it some depth. It's kind of like what we did up here on the face. Only I wanted some brown on the face. So just take it a little at a time. Using the thin edge of the brush, that's how you get those nice feathery brush strokes. So what you want to avoid is, I know I said you want to show some of the black background showing. You don't want this sort of thing where you see like big gaps of the background. You want to keep it nice and tight together, but I'm not pressing down super hard and I'm not layering a thick amount of paint. So all of these little lines are touching each other, but you can still see a little bit of the background coming through. And this way I can come back and sort of adjust. When I add some more white to it, I can adjust where I want the white to be and where I want more definition to be. We're just avoiding it turning into a big cotton ball. As it's drying, it'll dry darker, so you'll notice, yes, maybe too much dark going on up there. So we're just going to build on it. Going to bring this all the way down. And off the bottom of the canvas. Oop, I'm off the screen a little. I'm going to brush upward from the bottom using the flat side of the brush, just so I don't have any weird gaps down there. And now taking a look at it, it looks pretty cool. I mean, you can see some definition of feathers, but I feel like I need more paint right up in here where I started, and that's where I had a lot of, I can feel it now. I have a lot of water on the brush on the canvas right there, and I think I just had some water hanging out on my brush that I wasn't aware of. So I'm just dabbing it with a paper towel, which takes off a lot of the paint. Totally fine by me. I'll just come back in and swoop some back in there. I promise we're going to get to that face soon. So yeah, you can go through and decide where you want to add some more white. You don't have to add more white on the whole entire thing. You might choose to, like, here's a spot right along here. I really want it to be pretty dense. And right here, if you run into some trouble and you really need some blending there, while this white is wet, you could always just dip your brush. Well, I need to clean it first. I thought I could do it without cleaning, but that was wishful thinking. You can dip your brush in one of the brown colors you made earlier and just bring some of that down into the white, and it will blend nicely most of the time. And on my original, I have the bottom belly shaded a little bit because it's just kind of curving down into the grass, and I thought it would be neat to have it look like some of the grass is casting shadow on the body. So you want to use a light brown. I've got this, the color I used on the face. I've got a little bit of that left. Use my number 8 brush. And I want to dull that down with some black. And then probably a little white. So you get a taupe color.
You know, I always paint my birds really fat.
They're well fed, Paul, well fed. And then if you have a lot of paint on your brush from mixing, you can swipe it off on your palette or your paper towel and just come up from the bottom. We want the white to be wet, so if it's not, paint some fresh white over the top so that you can just blend this taupe color right in there. And here's what we want to avoid. We don't want this cutting off at one single level. So see how this part, I didn't have that cut off like someone came in with scissors and was like, oh, you need some grooming. I bring it down in different lengths because it's going to look more natural that way. And with a shadow, definitely, unless there was like some squared off object right there, which we don't have, I just make sure that my line where the shadow ends is a little jagged and uneven. Another place you could shade, you could put some of this brown up under the face at the top of the chest. I didn't on this one, but I had started to put some of the little freckles on the chest, and then I painted white over them. Just, I don't remember why. One, I think the freckles indicate whether it's male or female, but I can't remember which means what.
Well,
So
that's
sorry,
convenient.
I'm not a wealth of information tonight.
That's convenient.
And now we need to mix a really dark color to trace the outline of the face. But before we do that, let's go ahead and fill in the eyes solid black. So our little owl still has its sheet mask on. Getting the beauty treatment. So I'm using my tiniest little brush. And I'm just going to trace that, what I called like a fat lemon shape. So it's kind of round, but has little points on each end. And your owl might have really big eyes, which is adorable, or they might be really small. Take a look at different barn
Which
owl.
can also be really adorable.
Actually, they can. The really small eyes are super cute. And owls, but also the really big. Sometimes the really big eyes are a little creepy, like the big round yellow ones, because they just look surprised. And you're like, what's going on? Mine got over here got a little big. So I don't worry about that too much because we are going to come in with white on the face. And I can very easily take that white and just carve out under the eye and make it a little bit smaller. And I have had to do that numerous times with different paintings. So now that our owl is vacantly staring at us, we're going to start outlining the face in the dark color. So let me show you. They do have this really cool defined outline around their face, and then the white feathers flick on top of that in different areas. So you can see, especially like right here, you see how the white feathers sort of flick over the top edge of that outline. And these are little short feathers. The outline are little short feathers that are facing forward. And I might be able to look up a diagram. But let's mix the color. So it's black and burnt sienna. So you're making really dark. Brush-wise, probably the number 8. You might use your number 4. Just something small. Something in the 1/8 to 1/4 range, or a little round brush. About, let's try half and half and see what that gets us. Yeah, that's about the right color. Maybe a little more black into that. It's pretty dark. And some barn owls have a lighter, more like this right straight burnt sienna. And I tried that on this one. I just didn't really like it because it just blended in with the head. If you have a lot of paint on your brush, swipe that off. Just get it down to where you can have a nice sharp edge. And then you're literally going to tap it in. Just tap that around the face. If it is not showing up against this head color, mix more black into it, which is exactly what I'm going to have to do. Mine is showing up okay. It's just I wanted it to be a little more darker and defined. And it just comes down to a cute little widow's peak. Tap, tap, tap. Cover up your white outlines. We don't want any hint of those remaining. There, tilt it a little bit. Now your outline around the face, it can be thin or it can be thick. We just want to make sure we cover up the white. When we add the white flicks of feather over this, it does reduce its size, its thickness a little bit. Okay, while you guys are catching up, I'm gonna look up this picture I had saved of an owl in profile. This is not the same breed of owl, but it also has the little, come on, go back here. It has the little outline around the face, and you can see that they are all little short feathers. This particular variety, breed of owl, genus, I don't know. It's got some white feathers in there too. Species, yeah. But you can see they're all short, tiny feathers that just are kind of going outward. And then there's another one too. This is either a barred owl or a Ural owl. I think it's a Ural owl. And they also have the outline around the face, and you can see that they're little short feathers that come down. Isn't that just such a sweet picture? I don't know. Oh, there's the beak, yeah. The beaks are kind of almost a greenish yellow color. Like, to me, it looks like it's slightly pale green. Pale yellow with a hint of green. But look at that cute eyelid. Oh, it's so cute. But look at the feathers. See that? How many little tiny bits. I've tried painting them this way, and I gave up. I was like, I can't spend this much time on a painting. But yeah, there's so much that goes into the face, and we're just doing a very simplified version. All right.
How the hell did that happen?
What'd you do?
I don't know.
Oh, got green on it. Okay, so now I want to do a little bit more detailing on the wing while the eyes dry and while the ring around the face dries. Let's see, I think as this dried, my lighter terracotta color, as it dried pretty dark, so I'm just going to come in with one of my small flat brushes and put a few more patches in there just to change things up a little. We're trying to make him camouflage against the forest. And I'm going to wash the brush. I am using my number 4. You could use your number 8. But they do have little white bits on their feathers too, especially when they unfurl them. And when they're closed up like this, they're sometimes just little freckles almost. So I'll usually just put a few on there. See how I do a line that kind of goes down at an angle? And it doesn't go all the way across. This one went probably a little further than it needed to. But I'll just put some little dots in there. Give it a pattern. Help him blend in to the barn. And while I've got this white on my brush, get a little more in this upper chest area for my guy. And I'll also, as that dried, I can see some white through it, which is probably okay, but my instinct tonight is to want to bring a little more color in over the top. So I'm just going to add a little at a time. There. If any of these white dots feel way too big and like that's the only thing you're noticing, we do put some grass over the top, so that's going to hide them some. Let me show you the original. I have some of those going on. I didn't put as many down in here. I have like actually a lot of black down in there. And we have freckles we'll put on. But if they feel too much, let them dry just a bit and then paint some of one of the other colors in over the top. I'm just going to play around with that wing a little bit more. You can look at pictures for reference if you like. I just like to think of it in little patterns. Like this is very calico. When you painted your white on earlier on the chest, if you feel like you need to sort of reshape the wing, you can definitely come through with the thin edge of one of your little flat brushes or the pointy tip of your round brush if you're using a round brush, and sort of just carve out the wing a little bit, just almost like you're re-outlining it. Okay, we're gonna get up here to the face, and I want to have us fill in the beak really quick. And while that dries, we're gonna put some freckles around here. Then the beak will be dry, and we can come in and start detailing the face with the white feathers, so he's not wearing a little peach sheet mask anymore. Let's mix a color for the beak. So let's mix white and yellow. And that's actually pretty much the color. I'm trying to think. You could throw the teeniest dot of blue in there, because remember I showed you their beaks are almost kind of bordering on a greenish. It's a really different color. But you don't want it to be too green. You want it to be more yellow than green. So let's see. I don't know what the deal is. I keep having too much water on my brush tonight. This must be not drying.
Because you're used to, you've been painting with oils?
That's probably why. So there's my light yellow, and if I wanted to make it a tiny bit green, I just pick up like the teeniest speck of blue. You might even wipe your brush before you mix it in there. So you can look at it and see, yeah, that's yellow, but it does have that slightly, I can put a little more of that, slightly almost a greenish tone. It's not the most pretty color in the world, but for whatever reason, that's what color their beaks are. Go ahead and fill it in. Whatever brush feels good for the beak size that you have. Let me zoom in. Face. Okay. And one thing I'll do too before we let the face dry just a little bit is they have this dark burnt sienna inner corner lines that go down the sides of their beak, nose, nasal cavity area on either side. It's just inner corner part of their patterning, and then I want to use my littlest brush. Now I want to take and mix burnt sienna with just a tiny touch of black. We don't want it as dark as what went around the head. but it does have just a little bit of black mixed in it to kind of deepen the color a little bit. I do want to clean my brush real quick, wipe it off, and because this is such a small area, I'm just going to redip the tip of the bristles in this color. So they have just a little bit, like we're basically giving him some eyeliner of some kind. And I want you to come in from the inner corner of the eye. So I kind of just outlined the inner corner of the eye, and then I just dab down the side of the nose. And we're going to do that over here. But this time I'm going to cover that white, as much of that white highlight. We're going to bring some feathers back over the top. So I'm sorry, the white outline, not highlight. And you can even come under the eye a little bit. You can underline the entire eye or just part of the inner corner, which is what I did on the original. Yeah. You know, I am going to actually come along and I'm going to outline the whole underside of the eye. On this one, this is how I could thin it out, just by coming into the black area. Because when I come back in with white feathers later, I can go over that a little bit, depending on how much. But I do like to have a little of that color under the eye. Right now, the eyes look very big. Okay. I'm going to give my beak another coat of paint because it's dried. And I can see through it. I can see the black underneath, so it needs a second coat of paint. And unfortunately, my paint dried up, so I have to mix that weird greenish color again. Darn it. There we go. We'll outline the beak a little bit later. It needs to dry just a bit. And we'll probably outline it in this same color, that dark brown that we just brought in along the inner corner of the eyes. If you feel safe doing it now, before your color dries, you can do that. Basically, you're just going to come along the edge, real thin. I'm not putting any pressure at all, barely, on the brush. And just kind of define the edges of the beak. Very little paint on the tip of the bristles. If you want to go extra credit, you can paint a couple little nostrils. Those you probably would want to do with the dark brown that you outline the face in, which I have just enough left. I have just enough left to do the nostrils and the freckles on the body. So this is going to be the tiniest little dot ever, and I'm just going to do one because I figured the other one is on this other side turned and we can't see it. I didn't do that on the original, so this is extra credit. Okay. Zoom out just a little. And let's get some dots on the face first. So not on this part. We're leaving his face that horrible peach for a while. But the dots go in kind of an erratic pattern. I always like to think of it like someone sprinkled pepper all over. And so, yeah, they're just dark. They're the color of the outline of the face, but you could also do them in black. They're just going to stand out a little bit more. So if your head is really dark, mine's a lot more red in the new one, then you could do totally black. And I'm going to use my little round brush, so whatever little detail brush you have, and maybe I'll mix a little water with my paint because it is drying up and I'm lazy and don't want to remix. Nice thing about acrylic paint, just add a little water to it. You can extend it out. So that is it's the burnt sienna mixed with a little black. It's what I outline the face with. And I just come in and dab dots. One of the things I like to do is like do a whole bunch of them around the face, and then as I get out from the face, maybe let them dissipate a little. And these are just tipped feathers on the top of the head. So it's like they're, by tipped, I mean, you guys remember frosted tips in the 90s? Those of you who lived through that, my brother had them. He had the frosted tips and the giant, like a silver bead necklace. He looked like Guy Fieri, but young and skinny.
I never did that.
So yeah, this bird has dark tips. The reverse.
I never had the frosted tips. I don't think, did I?
I don't know if you could have pulled it off. Jeff was just weird enough he could. He was weird in a good way, though. Musician weird. Artist weird.
I mean, I just have always just looked like a jock.
So over here, I have a really dark. So I actually mixed a little bit more black with the paint to see if it would stand up. I almost could go solid black. Yeah, I like that with the solid black. So there, been sprinkled with pepper. And I know the head is very dark. Most of you guys probably have the same. I'm talking about this outside edge of the head with the dark brown. It's very dark against the sky, but later on, the fireflies are going to cast highlights on the face and the head, so that it does get to be brought back a little bit from the darkness. Oh, okay, there we go. I thought it wasn't going to focus. Now, these little freckles, I'll put them down on the wings in little clusters. Like maybe there's a little cluster here. My favorite spot to put them is the lighter areas because they show up really good. But yeah, pretty much anywhere in the brown areas. A lot of this is going to get covered with grass. Yeah, this guy's getting a little more detailed than my original one did, and that's okay. Kind of fun to do that once in a while. Just tilting a little bit because of the glare on the face. And now we're finally going to get some white feathers on the face, and then we'll get some grass going in here, then we'll come back and detail the face some more. And then we'll start putting fireflies on. So the owl's getting really close to done outside of, we need to work up that face a bit. I think brush-wise, if you're using the Little Red Princeton kit, the number 4, which is your about 1/8 inch wide brush, is a great one to use. Some of you guys using different brushes. This little round number two brush I've been using is probably a little thin. You'll run out of paint too quickly. But if you have one that's bigger, that's a great one to use. Use the pointy end and not a lot of paint because you can always add more. I like to start with less and plan on adding more. Let's go ahead and dip the very tip of the bristles in the white paint. Just pick up a little, see, just a tiny bit on there. And I'm going to zoom in on the face for us. So handy to have that. You can come right in to where you can see his soul. Actually, that's all the furthest I can go.
Can't quite see the soul, but we're close.
This part I always start with painting these white feathers on is just above the eye. I feel like it's a pretty easy spot, and I don't do like one long. Oops, that was really long. I don't do one long one from the eye to the top. I do a series of I'll come around the edge with short. I think of them in rows. It's just a little easier to paint that way. And you saw the up close version, the picture I showed you, how they're all little spindly, almost look like fir trees, like teeny little fir trees. So there's a lot that's going on in here. So doing short little rows of feathers is perfectly acceptable. So see how now I'm getting down around the face? They always are growing out and away from the face. And that's part of what filters noise into their ears. That's what I read anyway. And now I'm going to come down and do another row. Just overlaps into the first one I painted. Doesn't really matter where you start. Like I could have started around the eye and worked my way out. Now, as you get close to the eye, that's where you could use the thin edge of this brush and just dab the white paint. You can leave a little bit of brown outline around the eye, the upper part, if you want to, but or you can use a little round brush. But yeah, you can really just like kind of using the thin edge of that brush, just come right up to the eye. And this is where that underpainting, which was this color right here that we've been staring at for over an hour, is where it comes in handy. Because just like when I had you paint the chest in and you could see the black through it, this is doing the same thing. You're leaving little bits of the brown by not using a giant thick layer of paint. And everybody's ends up different. Some people's are really fluffy, like they look super soft. And then others are not quite as fluffy. Mine usually lands somewhere in between. And yeah, come right up to the eye. You can do that same thing where you're using the thin edge of the brush and just sort of tapping paint around. You can reduce the size of the eyes using this technique if you feel like they're a little bit too staring and big. And then our brown that we put on the inner corners, just go right up to it. And if that felt like it ended up being too thick and wide, you can slowly, gradually reduce that down a bit too, just by bringing a little white in. And I feel like my original had nice fluff around the edge of the face. And some of these almost like looks like I kind of curved them a little bit. These ones are more stick straight. So let me play around with that a bit. Yeah, it's kind of fun to come back in just on some of the ends and make them more interesting. I am getting to where it's coming close to where I could end up covering my dark outline around the face, so I'm not going to do that too much.
Oof, shoulder.
Now, for this part, this is where we're actually going to start going out this way. And in fact, I'll pull up a photo. Sorry, I apologize. I'm a major photo referencer sort of person. So see, let me find the camera. There we go. So see how the feathers grow? They actually, if you were to look like, if you're standing above the owl and looking down, it's kind of like this. They grow to like a triangular shape. And again, that's all just like that noise filtration. Like they're super aerodynamic. So this is where I'd want to flick the feathers out this way. And we're just sort of seeing 3/4 view. So like there are feathers on this side that would come this way to make that shape I told you about. But because we're mostly just seeing this side, we'll just go right to the edge. Now as you get down towards the top of the beak, you can switch to a smaller brush if you want. But I just flick some feathers over the top edge of the beak. And you want to leave a skinny bit of that dark inner eye shading on there, because that way you won't lose the beak entirely. That way we have still a little definition left. And now we're just going to start on this side. Do the same thing where you do the little rows of feathers. You can work in little patches. Come right up to the eye. It's looking much better. I'm zooming in close because back here, I know I'm pretty zoomed in, but you can't really see as much of the underpainting as you can when I come up close. You can have a look and see bits of the brown showing through. When painting animals, fur, things like that, underpainting really comes in handy for 10 years, I taught a paint your pet class once a month, and people would send their pet portraits in, whether they were, I've had cats, dogs, snakes, rabbits, horses, all kinds of different animals. Someone sent a bear cub once because they didn't have any pets and they just wanted to take the class and they wanted a bear cub.
Somebody did a draft for that too.
Did they?
Yeah,
Funny.
it was because it was like a private party.
Okay. But anyway, we would get so many white dogs and so many black dogs. When you're painting something like a golden retriever, they have a lot of different tones going on in their fur. So they're a little easier to paint. But with the solid black, like black lab or white, like let's say Bichon Frise, I always made the people do an undercolor first for the white ones. So the white ones, I'd have them do like a taupe color undercoat, kind of like we did with the face here, and then bring the fur in just like we're doing with these feathers here, because otherwise they would end up with a little roly-poly cotton ball. And the black dogs, the best way to handle that is to start with it, to really look at the photo of the dogs. I would have people send me their photos. I would sketch the dog onto the canvas, and then I would print out the photo and tape it to their canvas. So when they came in, they could find their pet easily, and then they had a photo to reference the whole time. But with black dogs, I would have them really look at the picture, and you can pick up like, oh yeah, the dog's black, but if you, in this light, the highlight is blue or silver. So blue and silver highlights were really popular to define things. I've thought about doing a dog painting class on here. Good. Where I just am like teaching any kind of dog. It could be one of my dogs or something, but just basically show you this is how you would paint a dog's nose. Kind of fun. Maybe I'll plan on doing that. The eyes are really big looking to me. I'm used to like having owls with little tiny eyes.
But owls have big eyes.
They do, and it's a lot of it is I don't have the highlights in yet, so they're just kind of dead and staring, and and almost look like he's wearing little sunglasses. So I told you guys I wanted to reduce the size of this one, so I'm using my little tiny brush and just sort of carving it out. There, that's pretty good. That can sit for a bit. Just use your tiny brush actually to, like, if you were around the beak is a good spot. I can see a little line of the peachy color there. That's actually okay, but I don't have to have it. And you can use this to like make chin feathers. So very light touch with a little tiny bit of paint on the tip of the bristles. Like here, I can show you. That's how much paint I have. And quick little flick into that outline of the face. You can really fluff out the edges in some spots. So that's what I did down there. Those tiny little brush strokes for those itty bitty fluffy committee. There are different things that can be done with the owls. A lot of times I've done kind of light taupe colored shading around the eyes. Other things like, I'll do this. I do, like I said, a ton of owl paintings. I sell owl ornaments in my Etsy shop, so I do a lot of them. Not as many as I would like, but enough. So I've got this taupe color. I'm going to remix it because it has decided to dry up. So that was burnt sienna, white, and a little black. A little more black. Okay, that's too much black. Get some more burnt sienna and white in there. Yeah, kind of taupe. Now I have a lot of paint on my brush. Going to wipe it off. And I could come in and using the thin edge of my brush, maybe I'll add more white into that just to make it a little lighter. So using the thin edge of my brush, I could bring in some depth here with a little bit of that color just here on the cheek. Some owls actually have this pattern on their face, and barred owls do. They're my favorite. I love those. They're so cute. Oh, so cute. Not barred. So barn owls used to be my favorite, and then I think my favorite to paint are the barred owls. So you could bring this like above the eye a little bit. It's just adding more tones to this, making it look a little more defined, a little more interesting to look at. This is a great one too if you feel like this nose area kind of disappeared. You can bring this taupe color right up to the edge, and then you have this with the bright white. It helps it stand out just a little bit more. Yeah. And the cool thing is, if you feel like you've gotten too much brown, or maybe your brown was mixed a little too dark, you can dip your brush right in the white and just glaze over any part of this. I wouldn't glaze over all of it, just sort of soften things up a little bit. But, I mean, it's in the dark, so the face might not appear solidly bright white. Ah, it's looking much better, isn't it? Yeah. Let's get some grass going on here. Leave our owl face alone for just a bit. Take a deep breath. Sip your liquid courage, whatever you got there. We don't have a lot left to do with this painting, and it's mostly easy peasy stuff. The hard part's out of the way. We'll end up highlighting the owl. The eyes especially need to be highlighted, but we get some nice glowing pale yellow on it from the fireflies. There's a ton of them. Let's have a look. Okay, so I mix kind of an avocado green. And my favorite way to do that is to just mix a bright green with yellow and blue. So whatever blue you've got, whatever yellow you've got, let's get them together. I'm going to move my painting out of the way. I'll use my biggest brush. It is here. I have very messy palettes. I just go into autopilot when I am making paintings. And they never look super great. So I want a little more yellow than blue. And this color's a bit too vivid to paint right on there for a nighttime scene. I need more yellow. The blue really overpowered. I think I started with too much. Now to tone this down and make it be not quite as vivid. So you see how bright that is. It's like not quite avocado. It's more like kiwi, maybe? The skin of a kiwi. To tone that down, I use a little bit of burnt sienna. So I'm going to pick up a smaller brush, scrape some of that in, and I will actually show you guys what burnt sienna I use. I need more. Because I like this variety of paint, and I feel like I have several colors by this brand. And I feel like they go a long way, and I really like them. Just mixing that around. So this is, I bring my bright green back in there. So yeah, that actually did tone it down nicely. Add a little bit more. Could have added a little more yellow maybe. There are some paint companies that will make colors like this that you could just squirt right out of the tube.
That's no fun.
But it's kind of fun to mix. I might actually borrow some of your yellow if you got any left.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I have to open up the bottle and pour it out, and it's really annoying because it's in a giant bottle. Yeah. The color of avocado that's oxidized a little. I'm going to grab my burnt sienna really quick to show you guys. A brand of paint that's very affordable. And it's heavy-bodied. or it's probably considered medium. It's pretty thick. So this is by Blick. You can find it online, really inexpensive, and it goes a long way. And you see how thick that paint is on my palette. Some of the best colors to buy in this brand is they have a Cerulean Blue, which is absolutely beautiful. I wanted to use it in this painting, but I thought I better use more accessible colors.
You know, Cerulean Blue though is like one of the most common colors.
I love it though, but it's you know it's not hugely different from cobalt. It's like cobalt and white, and
it's not cobalt and white.
But you could mix cobalt and white and have it be kind of close. Cerulean Blue, Naples Yellow, Burnt Sienna, Black and White. You got a good color combo there.
That's actually like Cerulean Blue, Naples Yellow, Black, White, and like
Cadmium Red.
Cadmium Red, and then the Burnt Sienna is like a really pretty traditional palette, actually.
Yeah, you guys can be channeling Monet.
But okay. he wouldn't have the black on there, though.
Yeah, you're right. I've got a lot of paint on the brush. You can see how thick. I wouldn't get a nice thin blade of grass out of that. So I'm going to just wipe it off. This time I might actually wipe it on my paper towel and squeeze the edges so I get a nice thin. See, now it's so thin I need to actually dip that in the paint. Just swipe it right through. And let's start way over here. And I'm starting at the bottom of the canvas. And I'm just making different heights of blades of grass. Sometimes what you can do is, you know how like flowers in a vase, they have a stem, and then sometimes there's another stem or leaf that comes off. So you can branch off of some of these to make them a little thicker. And the wind's gonna blow. Some of them are gonna cross over, maybe dramatically. Some might be broken off and really short. Remember, it's called Field of Dreams. He's in a field. He or she.
He's like looking at us like, are you looking at my mouse? Don't be looking at my mouse. I'll be taking that mouse.
That's what I think. He came down to like grab a mouse or something that he spotted. Or he's just having a chill moment. A chillaxing moment. So we're not going to go over the owl yet because I don't want us to cover the areas that we need to highlight with yellow yet. So he is like standing in the grass, so yeah, it would kind of bend around him a little with the body. That's convenient. And the grass, like some of them can come up pretty high, like almost to the top of the canvas. And I'll get some over here too. If you feel like you want to use a smaller brush, you can absolutely do that.
Nah, this bigger brush is the way to go.
Yeah, I just find that I'm not pushing super hard. Like my bristles aren't bending a ton when I touch them to the canvas. Because the harder you push down, the thicker your brush strokes are going to end up being. And it is okay to have some blades of grass in here that are thicker. And a lot of times I'll come back, this dries really fast, I'll go over some of these so they're a little more vibrant. They do just, as they dry, they sort of want to disappear a bit. You don't have to go over every single one, but definitely pick some out that you want to make a little brighter. Adding a lot of grass to this one, apparently.
So it seems.
Yeah. I'm going to tilt it a little bit so you can really get a full glimpse of the colors. Owl is still very dark and doesn't quite fit in because of that. I mean, he does if we didn't have fireflies, I guess. And also there's no grass over the top of him yet.
Trying to drop a deuce here.
No. He's coughing up an owl pellet.
tee-hee. A tee-hee-hee.
Tee-hee. All right. Assessing the damage here. Kidding. I can see what I did. I see it on my original. I took a little yellow, not a lot, and I occasionally went over a blade of grass here and there with the yellow because...
Dude.
Sorry. Did I paint your finger? This can be like highlights from the fireflies that we'll put on. Now, don't put too much because we don't want it to be so much that the fireflies don't show up. But it does help some of these darker blades of grass stand out. Look at that. Now, I look at mine now up on the screen. It's not as apparent where I'm sitting looking down on my canvas. I can see I did these all like pretty evenly spaced, so I'll usually come in and force myself to put some that are uncomfortably close. I like that yellow in there. That was a good decision. Should take notes when I paint. Sometimes I do. All right, clean the brush off. And we're going to highlight our bird's eyes. All of the highlights on the bird are not the straight out of the tube yellow, which I thought I was going to get away without having to get more yellow, but I have to get some more. Where to put it? That is the question. Okay. So all of the highlights on our bird are done with a buttery yellow color. So we're going to mix white and yellow together. And the recipe I'm going to give you is 2 parts white to 1 part yellow. So this is just your basic primary yellow. I'm going to use my number 8 brush. So 1 part yellow, 2 parts white. I hope that's what I said. That's what I meant. You want it to be like the color of butter. Get a little more glowing yellow than that. Yeah. That's about the color of Land O'Lakes butter. Funny thing about butter. Years ago, you know, they used the butter churn and all that. And the butter was white. And pioneers wanted it to be yellow. So they would grate carrots and boil the carrots in some milk and then squeeze the milk out, and they would use the carrots to color the butter. Like I can't remember if it's what they squeezed out of the little cheesecloth bag. I learned that from reading the Laura Ingalls books. Okay, so let's start.
But why did they want it to be yellow?
Probably just aesthetics.
Like
I remember in the book she talked
pioneers. Why does that matter?
So she talks about in the book how here we'll start highlighting and then I'll talk. So I'm just going to put some highlights on the chest here. She talks about how they would use white butter for their normal family dinners, but the yellow butter would be for company.
We've got colored butter.
We have carrot butter.
Now in butter, now in color.
So you decide how much.
What if they had picked like purple carrots or beets? What if they had picked beets?
Pink butter. Oh, I love that.
That would have been like, no, I mean.
Let's make that a thing. Pink butter.
Beet butter.
If you ever see pink butter on
Come
the
on
market,
over here and beat your butter.
It was Paul and I who came up with the idea. Okay. So I got some golden yellow or soft yellow butter.
And Daniel's like, what did I just walk into?
Yellow sign of quality and freshness. There you go.
Our history
What's
major.
a Bubo reference? I hope someone made a Bubo reference or Bubbo reference. We failed. You'll have to cry, Daniel. Sorry. Okay, so now I'm going to do some yellow highlighting along the face. Now, this part I noticed when I painted it last weekend. I notice on top of the dark brown, it turns really pale. You don't really notice the yellow as much. So I stirred a little bit more yellow into a small patch of my color. So I had one that was more buttery. And that way I got some nice yellow on there without it looking white. I wanted it to have that warm color. So yeah, just mix. Here, I'll show you mine. I just mixed a little more yellow into a small portion of that color. And we'll use that same color over here. Now this is going to make that head stand out. Yay, for so long it's just been hidden away. Don't really do much on the top of the head because I didn't put any fireflies up there. But if you wanted to plan on putting some fireflies up there, and if you feel like the head is sort of disappearing, you know, I'm going to do something. I kept saying how my head was kind of conical, almost cone-heady. If I do some yellow highlighting across there in a less cone shape, then look at that. That kind of took it away. Now, I can add a little more of that brighter yellow at the edge of the chest. And down along the wing, kind of make that stand out. I'm just doing scratchy highlights using the thin edge of the brush. I don't want to do like an outline. I like to do just little scratchy, vague highlights. And we get some on the face. So you want to use your softer yellow, the one that has a little more white in it to start at least. And just brush. So we're not adding feathers. We're adding tone. We're adding color. So it's like there's a yellow light shining on the face. And go a little at a time. You can use a smaller brush if you want. We're just tinting. We're adding a little makeup. How about that? That's probably the better way to think of it. Let's see, you can get some on the beak. I mean, this part, upper nasal area. I'll have to look up what that's called. Here. Just a little. I don't want to interrupt all the pretty feather painting we did. So it's just sort of tinted. And let's switch to the littlest brush. I'm going to zoom in on the face. Now my owl, I feel like I could put some more, before I start working on the face. As I looked up on the monitor, I was able to see it from a distance, and I see that I want more. I want some more yellow in here.
More. The Kylo Ren.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. There. It's a little more glowy. Okay. Enough is enough.
Oh, I guess I took my microphone off and gotta put it back on.
Oh, the mechanical owl from Clash of the Titans. Beep, boop, 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 beep. Greta and I just watched the like 2013 or whatever remake of that one with Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, I was there.
Did you watch it too? It's pretty decent. I mean, it got really bad reviews, but I actually enjoyed it. Okay, so the beak, littlest brush, your white and yellow color is probably the one to use. If this doesn't show up against the beak color, you can use pure white. But I just go to, see, I've got just a speck of paint on there. I just go down the front edge of the beak, and it makes a nice highlight color. It doesn't stand out a ton, so I might actually take a little white and see what that does. It showed up a little bit. It has just a nice little shiny look. And now for the eyes, let's have a look. So what we have here is highlight from below. So we have this little scoop. It's right in the black part of the eye. You want to curve it with the eye though, and you don't want it right at the edge. You want it to be just up from the edge. So it's at the bottom of the eye, but not like right on what would be the water line. Otherwise it might look kind of funny. But you want very little paint on your brush. So just a little flick of paint. Look at that. tiny bit. And come along here. I might actually wipe my brush off even more because I want more of a hazy highlight at first. So yeah, I wiped most of my paint off my brush. And you're still going to have some on there. I'm going to build from this. And now I'll dip it in just the plain yellow and do a little speck of that. So look, it's so cool. I love that. Got a nice little warm underglow at the bottom of the eye. I'm going to attempt something that's not on here.
No!
Like thinking about this, if I were doing a painting that I was like maybe doing for my own sale, I would probably do a really hairline thin line in yellow across the top edge there. It's almost too much. I've ruined it. No. I'm going to try it on this one too. Just kind of the outer corner. Just as an experiment. Yeah, I like that. It didn't really make a huge, like, wasn't like a award-winning thing I did there. But yes, our owl is done. We just need to put on fireflies and some grass over the top of the owl. We got to do the grass right now because if we try to paint fireflies and then make the grass go through the fireflies, you'll end up with smeared fireflies. So go back to your biggest brush and your green. Hopefully it's not dry. Hopefully you have just a little bit left. That's all you need, just a little bit. And this is going to maybe hurt your soul a little bit. Painting the green streaks. Just do a few. If you leave it off entirely, it's not going to look right. So just do a few. And no, you did not ruin it. It looks the way it should. He's standing in grass, and the grass is just sort of parted there. He's mushed it down a little bit. If you want to use a smaller brush on some of these, you can. I like to have them be about the same thickness as the rest of the grass, but I know that you might be scared to paint over your owl. So if you're more comfortable using a smaller brush, please do so. The highlights really changed it. All those people that were in here earlier and just popped out when the face looked like a peach mask and judged me on that. Now they've missed seeing how a painting can develop into something cute. I had the sheet mask on it for so long. All right, so we're done with the big brush, and everything we do from here on out is mostly going to be done with your tiniest brush. Your little round one, your detail brush. This is a number 2 round. And a lot of times we're going to be using the handle of the brush. For doing that, where we poke the handle in and put the dots on, you want to have a little pool of your light yellow color, because if you're trying to dip the handle into a thin little scraping of paint, you're going to get really frustrated. So I am going to take the remaining bit of my white and mix in 2 parts white, 1 part yellow, thereabouts. Butter. Looking for butter? You can put a little more yellow in this one because they're fireflies, and we know that fireflies they glow pretty yellow. I do like to have the white mixed in there though to soften everything up. So yeah, you want to have a little cool of the color. I might just keep this handy because I can dip my brush into that too. Let me scooch over. Sort of, for some reason, ending up off to the right often. Okay, smallest brush.
Somebody grabbed yellow off my palette and totally polluted my pool.
You want some of this? I've got.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
I'm not as concerned about the fireflies.
So let's look at the fireflies on the original. I have some that are done with the finger painting, where we do the soft stars a lot of times in the different paintings we do. But some of these are done where I stick a little bit of paint on the end of the brush and just swirl it around into a little circle, getting bigger and bigger each time I go around. Let's do some of those first. Oh, and then I have a lot of dots that I feel like the best way to describe those is like little rising soda bubbles. They kind of climb up some of the blades of grass here and there, and they're just speckled all over. Those are maybe fireflies that are off in the distance or babies. But I'll show you how to do the little spirally ones. So here I picked up just a little bit of paint. Let me zoom in.
You know, the funny thing is, being born and raised in Oregon, we've never seen fireflies.
No. So here, again, very little paint. And I just set the brush down and spiral it into a little circle and keep going around until I run out of paint. With that very small amount of paint that I put on my brush, you will run out of paint really quick. So you don't really have the chance to make a big firefly if you were concerned about that. And I just sort of put them all over. Now, sometimes I'll do smaller ones by just not spinning around as many times. I try to not evenly space them. Zoom out again. I like the little bit of whimsy this adds. I'm going to tilt this. I feel like everything is really dark in this new one, but I think it just might be the lighting.
Well, it's really dark in here outside of being on the light.
Yeah.
I mean, being under the light.
So you can put as many of these as you want. We do want to get some over the owl. Maybe once you get the hang of them in the grass, then you can put some over the owl, because I know that's probably a little scary. Just like painting the blades of grass over the owl was. Your machine is the fan going on it? Your 3D printer?
They run pretty hot, you know.
Yeah.
See, it might be out of...
That one ended up a little big, but he's just a extrovert. Now, once I feel like I've got a decent amount of those on there, I'll show you how to do the finger painted ones, which are really fun and soft. I'll show them on the original. So that would be these. I use this technique on so many paintings. I'll use them for like dandelion puffs, like wish flowers, snowflakes, stars, all kinds of things. So you're dipping the handle of your brush and you're picking up a little bit of your paint with the handle of your brush. Make sure it's a little small handle. Stamp your little dot down while it's still wet. Use your finger and really lightly graze it across the top of the canvas as you're making concentric circles, getting bigger and bigger. And then you end up with this thing that's got these hazy edges. And then what you do is you re-stamp your handle of your brush in the paint and then come back in and put a nice bright dot right in the center. You can do that with white too if it doesn't stand out. Because that one, let's see what it would look like with white. That didn't stand out very good on this one. Yeah, the white will stand out a little more. And then you can kind of change the size of them by how much paint you dot down. Like that first one I made really big by stamping down a big glob of the paint. And I love the little tiny ones too. Do some up here maybe. And you just always go back and stamp a fresh dot right back in the center. I'll zoom in just a little bit for the technique. The one thing I noticed people have trouble with this at first is they're pressing too hard. So it's kind of funny, but when I do live classes in person, I'll say, it's like you're tickling the canvas. You're tickling it and you don't want it to wake up. Just to to help them get the idea.
Okay, so tickling something with the intention of it not waking up is kind of creepy.
We're creepy painting here, Paul.
Like, that's like kind of crossing like the boundaries of what's appropriate and what isn't.
So funny. It's like those college students that draw Sharpie on their passed out friends.
Well, no, I was thinking more like it's non-consensual tickling at that point.
Look at those. I think they're just so pretty and fun. Yeah, I've heard that fireflies are, they think that in the next, I don't remember how long, it was a short amount of years that they'll be fully extinct, which is very sad.
Well, we need to go someplace where we can see them before that happens.
Oh. Okay, yeah, we want to, if you're doing these, it's a good idea to maybe put one or two over your owl just to have them be part of the flow. Of course, I did a giant one. That's okay.
It's okay. You did it, so it's fine.
I'm just talking myself off a cliff. It's okay. It's okay that you did that live on YouTube. No, that's fine. Tomorrow night I'm teaching a starfish painting.
Yay!
In a live class. Be fun. This time of year, people love the ocean-themed paintings. I did a sea otter, and so many people enjoyed that I said, you know what? I have a starfish that actually kind of matches this one. So I put it on the schedule. All right, now I feel like, well, I kind of want to do one more.
And I'm feeling.
So I feel like I've got a good amount going of these and almost done with this painting in its entirety. Now these little dots, you can use just the plain old bright yellow right out of the bottle. I feel like it's kind of fun to do that, to have them be a little bit different, because these are all really pale. And then to have ones that are more like the true firefly color. Now if you have a really vivid yellow, you can mix a little bit of white with it. But I just speckle them all over, and then sometimes I like to have them just zigzag climb up a blade of grass. I think the best way to describe these is what I mentioned earlier. They're like little rising soda bubbles or champagne bubbles.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Hard Mountain Dew bubbles.
Those would probably be like Charlie and Grandpa encountered and make you burp.
Gross.
Burp.
Oh yeah, from Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that scene. So silly. That's exactly what they sounded like.
Have you never heard an old man burp before? Oh no, Grandpa does a couple good ones. It's Charlie that's weak.
Yeah, Charlie does the weak ones. Make sure you put some of these over your owl down in here. Fun.
My shoulder's cramping up. I have to lean in so close to see what I'm doing.
So on a whim tonight, we decided to make this video public. So if you are popping in from YouTube, we have a ton of, gosh, over 200. We must be getting close to 300 or more.
What?
Tutorials.
Oh, I think we've got over
of different paintings, because we've been doing this since 2019 and kind of saved our bacon during COVID.
Bacon.
I don't eat pork.
No, you know what's amazing? I guess there's new health studies coming out that bacon's not very good for you.
If you're on the keto diet.
No, even then, because it's the preservatives and...
Yeah, there's a lot of sodium nitrates in it.
And, you know, smoking is bad for your lungs, so...
Liquid smoke is worse.
Smoke that you inject. I'm just telling, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what some of the new research is out there.
So I decided to cut out beef and pork out of my diet for the most part. And I went into my doctor and had been doing that for a year. Now, it doesn't mean I never had beef. I really don't ever eat
You
pork.
said for the most part, so
Yeah.
you're safe.
Yeah, and like my father-in-law makes a amazing prime rib every Christmas, so I sometimes I'll partake in that. But that's really the only.
What are you
beef I
talking
eat.
about? You're a prime rib fiend.
When he makes it, that one time a year on Christmas. So anyway, I went into my doctor and had all my labs done, and she said your cholesterol's gone back to normal because it was higher. And I could not figure out because I hadn't lost any weight, if anything, 5 pounds, nothing major. And I was like, what caused my cholesterol to go down? And then I put it together. It's because I took out the red meat, so it came down without me even knowing, which is kind of cool. Too bad the weight doesn't work that way. I guess it kind of does. But you know, when you cut out something to lose weight, you know it. You know it every night. I am going to sign my painting now. Yeah, every night when you're feeling a little hungry, and
Speaking of which,
then you know you've cut something out. All right, so I am going to sign my initials on here, and we'll check out what Paul's done. I haven't really seen yours. I took a couple little peeks, but didn't really process it. So Paul paints along with me for those who are trying this out for the first time. So we always compare our paintings at the end, and he always does something vastly different than mine.
I didn't tonight.
Yours is pretty close.
No, I painted my style, but I did not stray from.
Paul specializes in landscapes, so animals are not a familiar or necessarily comfortable area for you.
I always feel like I do pretty good though, because
Yeah.
I think I did good with the ladybug.
I like it. It's kind of got a little bit of a Star Wars creature
I
thing.
almost put Chewbacca's bandolier thing, not bandolier, whatever his strap on. Not his strap on.
What are you talking about?
Chewbacca's, I think it's called a bandolier. Whatever the thing that he wears across his chest. Thought about, would you quit with the glare already?
So let's see the things I like about Paul's. And these are things that he does just painting on his own, which is fun when you're the second painter because you can just do whatever you want and change the person's painting so it looks a little different in the end. So he did a backlighting in a pale blue, which is really pretty, and you put a little bit of that on the face and a little in here. This is like expressive color through here, which is really nice. And your owl is very fuzzy. It looks like it went through like the dog groomer and got hair dried. Got hair dried and had some frizzy.
I don't know if you can tell, but the center of my lightning bugs is very pale lavender too.
Oh yeah, that's really pale, almost white.
Yeah.
The other thing with yours is looking directly at my soul. Mine's kind of, I guess mine kind of looks like, yeah, this one, the original, to me, looks more like he's looking down, and the new one looks like he's kind of looking up. But yours is like...
Daniel, you're talking about porgs.
Yours, yeah, the porgs. Yours is judging me. The other thing, I like your grass. You did it really dense down in here, which I have a lot of gaps with the blue showing through.
His beak's kind of jacked up.
Beak's a little. You know what, you could, I think what looks maybe different with it is, like, normally I think their chin ends right up under the beak, pretty close.
Yeah.
But yours is a whole new species.
I thought about putting a little, like, mouse tail hanging out of his beak. But
Thank you, Marlene.
No, I didn't want to be too morbid with it.
Marlene, I can't wait to see what you do if you decide to post it. Those of you guys popping in here, we have a Facebook group page called Palette Knives Out Artcast, and it's a community page. So it's one you have to actually, like, ask permission to join. And people post their paintings. That's where I post all our live streams coming up. And
Should we bring it back so we're actually talking to the camera? There we are.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where I would post, like, upcoming paintings or inspiration sometimes. People a lot of times will do...
You're going to have to lean in closer. There we go.
People a lot of times will post painting suggestions, too, for what they want to do coming up.
Well, that's where this one came from, right?
Yep.
Well,
no, we have a form on our website. What is our website? PaletteKnivesOut.com?
Yeah.
PaletteKnivesOut.com.
It might be palette
Make
knives.
sure you spell palette right, because like paint palette is spelled different than like wood palette.
Yeah.
But you can fill out a form and submit like ideas. We love ideas because after we've done, gosh, I don't know how many paintings we've individually developed for classes since 2011.
Oh, a lot.
Hundreds and hundreds. We do get tapped out of ideas sometimes, so
yeah, it is nice.
We love having fresh suggestions.
I'm doing all this like.
Who's Alice the Goon, Daniel? He says, Paul's looks like Alice the Goon. I want to know who Alice the Goon is.
I was looking for my phone.
How do I not know that?
So I was like all like looking around all weird. I'm not tweaking, you guys. I promise. I was just looking for my phone.
So our next live stream, I think I have it scheduled for next Friday. I'll be able to let you guys know for sure.
Tell you
same
what.
time, 5:30 p.m. PST.
And we'll plan on using the same color palette.
Okay. Gonna put yourself up for the challenge.
It's not much of a
So
challenge.
the next one live stream a month, I do the painting. The next one Paul does, and his style is more. Let's grab one of yours. Actually, that's mine. This is yours.
I don't even know if that's a good representation, but
Anything that's very like cloudy, landscapey,
the
mountainy.
one right behind the ladybug is a good one.
That's mine though. It's my version, but it actually looks just like yours. So this is another.
I don't know.
It's like.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's fair. That's a representation more of what the style is. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, we'll be excited to see what you come up with, and I'll be on your case to get it done, as usual. Hey, Paul, you want to go out in the garage and paint?
Well, yeah, I got to go out in the garage and paint a lot, apparently, because we're doing a little. What is that?
It's an art walk.
Art walk.
Yeah.
Sherwood, our little town we live in Sherwood, Oregon, has an art walk
Quarterly,
and this time around, instead of being part of the nonprofit, we actually were given a table at the Performing Arts Center.
Yeah, so we teach live classes there, and they gave us a table, and we get to paint live and sell some paintings. So I told Paul to just design some small ones to sell.
Yep. Oh boy, sorry, that was so rude of me. I just yawned.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the process of painting the owl and it going through all of the crazy phases that are where it looks really funny and just kind of comes through. Can't wait to see what other people have done. And I guess you're looking for the mouse. It's right there.
That's not, that's what I was looking for.
I guess we will probably see you next Friday. We'll post it on our Facebook page.
Yep, and we'll post it on here too, probably. We usually do. All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.